and here we go. So it's exciting to be having done Blabs like almost 6 months now, Rhoberta. And so welcome everyone to our Transform Your Relationship show, where we have deep conversations. And I love them, Rhoberta, that we get to explore topics of communicating in personal relationships as well as in business. We do it all the time, and it's really important that we pay attention and get better at it.
Well, I think too in our last Blab, Laura, want everybody to know that if you didn't listen to that, it's available to you. We're talking about the distinction between communicating and connecting. And I made a distinction between communicating and communication. And those are important things too. And just quickly to bring you up to speed, communicating is something that we all do. We're just texting, blabbing, talking, speaking. But communication only exists when it's received by the person you're sending it to in the same way that you meant it. So you take enough time to clarify. And that's going to have a really big impact on our conversation today about texting.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, you can find information about all of Rhoberta's great content at forrelationshiphelp.com.
And because I'm in this very strange location, I had to put everything on by hand on a little piece of paper. So,
oh, awesome! You have all of them there.
Transform your relationships, and be about hijackals and for relationships. Transform today, rather. Yes.
So great. So I love the distinction that we talked early about, and I encourage y'all to go watch that Blab because it's really rich. And when we actually are communicating, we're taking into consideration other people. So, texting, I really resisted texting in the beginning. I'm a fan of it now, but I think it's caused some problems for some people.
I think it's caused problems for a lot of people. Certainly, it's a wonderful thing. The reason I'm in this strange location is yesterday a friend of Laura's and mine had surgery, and I took her to the hospital, and this morning I was there again, and got to go right back to go pick her up. But the instant communication of how are you doing, do you need anything, all of that, no matter where I was fabulous.
Yeah,
right?
With our little texting.
So there are great applications of texting. And none of those applications took place while driving.
Thank you. Props up for that big one. No texting while driving. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just to put that caveat in really early. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. In fact, the exact opposite is true. You should not be looking at your mobile device while driving. No, no, no.
Big emphasis.
You think that's big enough? I mean, how many of us have been watching people who are texting because they're going across the road, they're going across the line, they're not waking up when the light turns green, all of that ridiculousness. Like, what in the world is so important?
That is a good question. Why are we so drawn to this texting while driving and doing other things?
I think it makes you feel relevant. I think young people like it because they think they're in the mix. Like, I'm hot. I've got stuff going on. People, I'm important. People know who I am. I'm in the middle of it. I'm in the mix. And when I'm not, like, what happened? My phone isn't ringing. I think that's unfortunate. I was in the Metropolitan Museum of Art a few months ago. I'm in this beautiful 20-foot high ceilings, Roman Greco artifacts from thousands and thousands of years ago. And I took a photograph because there were 3 young people glued to their phones on a bench. Now, I tried to tell myself that they were listening to some wonderful guided conversation about the artifacts. And I truly hope they were, because I do know that they are available, and that could well have been. But I also was taken with the fact that they weren't looking at any artifacts. They weren't looking at anything. They were down in their phones like this. They never looked up, and I watched them for 20 minutes. So I highly doubt they were taking a tour of the museum by listening to their phone or reading anything. But the thing that I want to talk about, and I know there's lots of things you want to talk about too, is one of the big things in life that I am always talking about and telling my clients to is be present where you are. Well, you can only experience this moment in this moment. You know, if you're thinking about the past, you're not here. If you're planning about the future, you're not here. So be in this moment. And when you are here, when I am here with you, Laura, and I pick up my phone and I go, oh, now I'm not here with you. And from my point of view as a relationship expert, that's the thing that bothers me the most. I saw a cartoon on Facebook the other day, and this woman and man were sitting opposite one another, and the woman taped the phone to her forehead, and she said, now will you look at me?
That's a good call. You know, I was going to, take the standpoint of like, okay, when we're texting, like you said, it's good for quick information. When you're on your phone and you're somewhere else, or you're somewhere where you're with other people or other opportunities to engage in the world, guess what? You're missing out on your life. I get sucked in. It's like, it's like going into virtual reality, right? And that's one way to live life. But there are complications to that. There are challenges to that. There's relationships that are being broken because of it. There are personal fulfillment that is missing. You're looking to get all your fulfillment through a device. It could be through your connections with other people. So where's the line? How do you know? How can you stop yourself from this addictive behavior? Or is it addictive?
Well, yes, it is addictive because it is self-referential. People care, people are in touch with me, people want to talk to me, I'm important, right? And that's not necessarily the case. There could be two of you who don't have a life and you're talking to each other all the time. But, the thing is that it makes your life so small. This is how big your life is. And all that's going on around you is not part of your life. And I find working with families and couples, this is a really huge deal. And I always invite my families to say, okay, get a basket, put all the devices in it from 5 to 7 o'clock each night or whenever the preparation and eating of dinner occurs. No digital devices. There is nothing that can take away from the family bonding time. And that applies to couples too. No phones at the dinner table. No, or the lunch table or the breakfast table. Good start. So, yeah. Hello, Anna. Welcome to the call. And yes, Gloria, I think that is so true. We've got to really pay attention to the impact that these digital devices have. And we're talking about texting in particular. And we didn't even mention sexting, which I think we also could put in a little bit about. So many downsides for so few upsides. Remember back in the day, yes, gee, golly, 20 years ago, when you put this funny little thing that you licked and you put in the corner of an envelope and then you waited a week till somebody got back to you and you thought that was really fast? That, oh wow, isn't that lovely? You send a letter and you get a letter. Does anybody remember that? And the person actually sat down and thought about what they were writing, and maybe they had beautiful penmanship and they expressed their thoughts nicely. And now what is it? I've been waiting at least 30 seconds and you didn't answer me. What's up?
Yes, the art of note writing. It may be coming back actually, but
well, as an
I hope
art
so.
form, I think you're right. That what's up with the speed? What's up with the speed? The need for speed. On is that an essential part? Is that where texting actually gives us an advantage? What do you think?
Part of me wants to think that the speed, twofold. One, being constantly mesmerized, fast, 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 fast is a distraction. It's avoiding something. When we have to slow down, we have to feel, we have to engage, but it's a beautiful thing.
It's about being alive.
You know, it's about savoring every moment we have on this planet together as people and together with oneself. Like, can we revel in that? And I think there's a lot of people who get it, but then the addiction, we can help us forget that.
I was reading More magazine a couple months ago, and they always have a page that tells you what's new and trendy, one of my favorite magazines. And there's a new word, and the word is nomophobia. It's nomophobia.
Nomophobia. Do tell.
The fear of being without your digital device.
No mobile.
Right? Like,
wow.
Why would we be afraid of being without our digital device? And how many people are concerned about, did I plug in my phone? You know, we're always like, plug in for the phone. It's got to be everywhere because I don't want to miss a thing. And there's another thing I want to talk about, and maybe not right at the second, but I just want to put it in the conversation in case Gloria and Anna and anyone else who's joining us wants to say something about it. But can you really value silence with yourself when you're attached to a digital device? And how does one create the balance that says, this is a tool, this is not an extension of me?
Yeah. And how do you know? So how do you know if you're addicted or using it as a tool? Can you turn it off, or how do you use it? You know, and I admire people who don't need their devices in a sense. I feel like, you know, you said, do you have a fear? I have a fear. I'm present to the fear of if my phone is not charged, because some of the ways I use it is as a tool that gets me through my day, whether it's get me to a location through GPS, makes me more efficient. And there's this value for me. And then the other side of speed, which I do like speed. I also like time to slow down, but is, in theory, in my mind, if I can get something done faster, I'll have some more time for myself to slow down. I can speed up to slow down.
The fact is, we're going to come to a right answer. But what I hope we do today is stimulate interest in the questions for yourself. Like, for every one of us to stop and think, wow, am I consciously using this device, or have I become, dependent on it to such a degree that I'm almost addicted to it? Or, I'm with you. Like, I want it in my car, but of course I have a charger in my car. I want it when I'm traveling and I need to communicate with people quickly. I mean, there are huge, huge pluses to being able to text. Absolutely. However, there are also big downsides to what it does to us if we're not conscious of using it as a tool. One among many tools. Another tool might be your ability to meditate. That's a conscious tool which says, I will use this tool instead of this tool, right? And there's a time and a place for each.
Or meditation apps.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about silently sitting, as we talked about in our book, Soul Solitude, where you just sit, be still, and listen. You don't listen to anybody's music, anybody's words, any of those things. You are just present in the moment, quiet and listening. And we don't need an app for that. We need the non-app for that. So,
And people might be saying, well, why? What? I can't relate. I'm too ADD. I can't do that. All the words come up. Give us a compelling reason for it. Invite us in.
A compelling reason for sitting quietly? Well, here, I'll give you an example. Here's what the world teaches us. This is our head and this is our feet. And the world says, go, do more, be more, have more, repeat. Do more, be more, have more, repeat. Faster, more, get it in. You know? And so what happens is we realize that in that stress situation, that if we stop, this being our head, that being our feet, we're going to fall on our face. Meditation is coming upright. Now I invite my clients to do it 5 times a day and set their cell phones. They come up, they do a little 4-7-8 breathing that I talk about in my book, Kaizen for Couples. That's simply breathe in through your nose deeply for a count of 4, hold for a count of 7, breathe out through your nose for a count of 8, do it a minimum of 3 times, and then simply come up, right, and say, okay, what am I thinking right now? What am I feeling right now? What am I needing right now? What am I wanting right now? Get back in touch with yourself. Give yourself a breather from the push. So whether that meditation is 90 seconds of that, where you just, okay, get into it with the breath and ask those 4 questions. What do I think, feel, need, and want? And then, like, what's going on? And just be still with it. Or if you have longer, we'll sit longer. You know, I've studied meditation all over the world, Laura. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where your hands are, where your feet are, where your fingers are, whether there's a candle, whether there's music, whether there's not. It is all about that silence, getting to that quiet place. And when people do that, we create balance. And that's the compelling why.
And I think a lot of people make an excuse about not meditating because there's a lot of pressure associated with it, first of all, and I want to take that pressure away.
Yeah.
Just sit. If you're thinking, that's fine. If you get distracted, that's fine. Just sit. There's no... That is how to do it.
Let me tell you a little story. I've been taking care of a gentleman for 9 years, and for the last 18 months, I fed him every day for dinner. And a couple of weeks ago, he went into the hospital, and it wasn't looking great. I mean, he was 101, so you know, there's a good reason why it wasn't looking great. And I had this profound experience. I found myself, he finally went to sleep. We'd been in the hospital like for 8 hours, and he finally went to sleep. And I just sat looking at him, and I found myself after about an hour going, oh, I had just experienced perfect peace. I was just sitting, breathing, looking at him. That's what we're talking about. Wasn't thinking anything, wasn't doing anything. I was being with him. So we don't have to get fussy, and we don't need a whole bunch of books or candles or incense. We have to have the willingness to just be present and still as a balance to all that life has to offer us by being out there and in it. And texting is one thing to use as a tool. It's another thing to believe you're off the grid if you're not texting and in the conversation all the time. So what do you think, Gloria and Anna? Is this what you thought you would hear about?
And I think that when we sit, you run into things that are uncomfortable. But what I'm hearing you say is that you just sit, and then you sit again. And even if it is, I love that, 90 seconds, and you do it over and over again, there is this potential to get to where you got to with your friend.
And that potential happens every day. I mean, that was a long time. I sat there for a couple of hours. It took an hour to become aware of it, and then I sat for another hour because it was so joyful. But
practice, it's a beautiful thing.
Practice being silent for 90 seconds with yourself. You know, you can stop. Believe me, any text can wait 90 seconds.
Any text can wait 90 seconds. Quote that, tweet that. That's a good one.
Yeah, kind of crazy.
Because I think that, your texting will change. as you become more present in life, then you realize you don't have to text certain things. You can stop yourself from texting while driving. You can be present in relationships if you can be present with yourself. So texting is not bad. It's just pointing, and it's a lure to something that can get out of whack in our lives.
And you know, every thought that you have is not a pearl of wisdom. Every meal that you have does not need to have a comment on it. Everything that is occurring in the world at the moment really doesn't need your contribution. You know, I used to give a lot of seminars, and people would be, it was about stress, and I'd say, you know, you really feel indispensable, right? Oh yeah, gotta do it, gotta be in there, can't. You say, okay, here's how you know how indispensable you are. Put your finger in a glass of water, take it out, and look for the dent in the water. We are not that integral to every last thing that is going on that we like to think that we are, you know? And if you are addicted to this, I really invite you to ask yourself the question, because I don't know the answer, only you can know the answer. Ask yourself the question, am I doing all this because I'm not at peace with myself? Am I looking for validation or approval or recognition or just to be part of something because I'm not enough just being by myself? Now I realize we're far afield from probably the whole idea of texting good or bad, but you know, basically you don't have to be on every moment. You're here to draw breath and take up space. I'm giving a free webinar next week, and it's called How to Claim the Power of Assertiveness Without Fear or Guilt. And this is the power of assertiveness, is to be able to be comfortable with yourself, to know that you deserve to draw breath and take up space, and therefore, using this technique, you also have the right to say what you think you feel you need and you want, as long as you don't impute motive to anybody else or include them in your conversation. It's about being self-aware. And that's your contribution to life, is to be, here's who I am, here's what I'm thinking, feeling, needing, and wanting. And it gives a formula and everything in the webinar, but you can do that, right?
Yeah, and it's also interesting to take a step back and say, well, what is your texting saying about your self-esteem? What are your actions really about here?
Yeah.
Are you, yeah. And what are other people's texting saying about them? Like, what are you using texting
let's not
for?
get into it mindlessly.
Yeah. So the benefits are to make quick communications, make sure people know where you're at or what you need in terms of not an emotional thing. You know, okay, well, I'm going to be at this corner, pick me up here, right? Or are you going to be on time? Or I'm running late, or, you know, just something you need. But I think people are using it for other emotional needs, and it's getting a little hurtful to oneself, to others. Let's talk about how texting hurts.
Sure. Let me use a little example. If I write these 6 words in a text, I never said I dated Leslie.
I never said I didn't.
I never said I dated Leslie. Okay? Did I say I never said I dated Leslie? Did I say I never said I dated Leslie? Did I say I never said I dated Leslie? Did I say I never said I dated Leslie? I never said I dated Leslie. I never said I dated Leslie. Which one is it? And which one are you going to respond to? Because fast off the mark with your fingers, you're going to be an emotional reaction. Rather than writing back and saying, I'm unclear, I could read this 6 ways. Which way did you mean it? So we're moving toward communication rather than communicating. But you have no idea what the person meant. You're making it up. That's a problem. Email, texting, anywhere that there is no voice, no face attached. You're making it up. You've got to communicate further before you can have communication.
Yeah. So I always like to take the communication to the proper channel to get clarification. Let's talk. Do you have time to ring? And definitely go to forrelationshiphelp.com to learn how to do that, to get ideas on it. Rhoberta, you have some amazing articles there, and on transformtoday.com I talk all about business and the issues that come up with social media. We got some blabs there, and I love your hijackals.com, because a lot of people who are difficult to deal with, they hijack your relationships, as you say, and they'll hijack your text. That just got to put a stop to that.
Yeah, because let me give you the definition of a hijackal so you see how it works with the text. Hijackals are people who hijack your relationship for their own purposes while relentlessly scavenging it for power, status, and control. So think of the people who are in relationship, and the guy, maybe it's the guy who writes, "Where are you? Who are you with? What are you wearing? What time are you coming home? Why are you late?" Like, whoa, who has the right to ask that question of you 10 times a day? You may well be with a hijackal, somebody who needs power, status, and control every minute. And if you're getting texts like that from your friends, wake up and smell the herbal tea, you may be with a hijackal. And if you are, and you wonder if you are, just go to hijackals.com and download the free ebook there called How to Spot a Hijackal. Sorry for the great graphic.
And then be sure to watch some of our past blabs, because we give you a lot of tips and tools, and take advantage of Rhoberta's complimentary discovery session where you can find out what's your next move with these hijackals. You've got to be very strategic. I think bringing more consciousness, and that's the purpose of our show, is to bring more consciousness to your communications, to your everyday actions, to help you thrive and be a better communicator, have better relationships, have that peace. I love that story you told about the sense of peace you got just from standing still, being there in silence with yourself and with your friend as he slept. And that is just beautiful.
It was beautiful.
It's just beautiful.
What was particularly beautiful about it was when I was getting prepared to leave, I sort of mentally asked, is there anything else I need to do? Because I thought he was coming out of the hospital the next day and would need more care, so I went home to get some sleep. And in the asking, it was no. He knows he's loved. He knows he's taken care of. If he were to die, everything would be fine. We've said everything we need to say. He's finally sleeping. You need to go. And he did, in fact, die during the night. And it was fine. Wow. It was fine from that point of view, that I knew that sense of peace and that he had it because we were there together. So it's a really good thing. But when we're talking about transforming your relationships, with our show, Transform Your Relationships, it's on all these levels, including your relationship with yourself, which is what we've been talking about today, and making you more aware. We use the word more conscious, but more aware. Like, what am I doing right now? What am I up to? Not being on autopilot and not letting the world run you, but let you run your world.
So text when you need to. Use it for good and effective communications, but don't use it as an emotional tool, substitute.
Yeah, I think substitute's a great word, because you're substituting it for real relationship often.
Yeah. So go out there and be safe, people. No texting while driving, and because that really sucks. It's like you're drunk driving or worse, as studies have shown. But most importantly, be present in your life, with the people in your life and with yourself. Have yourself stand up and enjoy that peace that comes with that. I think we are onto something. And we have another blab coming up in another couple of weeks about a similar subject. what to write and not to write in email.
Yeah, big thing. And I know, Laura, you have other blabs. I have other blabs. So be sure to follow us. You can find me at Rhoberta Shaler, as you can see on your screen. You can find Laura at Coach Laura. And if you want some peace and meditation of the kind I was speaking to you, didn't really set you off yet in a good direction, go and read Laura's Feminine Power Cards. You'll find them at femininepowercards.com. They're very inspiring. They'll give you just a little thought that you can sit and hold in your mind quietly and have some peace that way.
Yeah, it's a good way to start the 90-second process. I love it. So be safe and be well. Watch our blabs. We'll be back with you in a couple of weeks. The replay will be available shortly.